Hello and welcome to the Connolly Motor Group podcast. I'm your host Dennis Finbar Cronin. On this episode of the podcast we chat all things GA life and loves with Galway GA superstar and Audi Galway brand ambassador Joe Canning. So sit back, relax and enjoy the very first episode of the Connolly Motor Group podcast with special guest Audi Galway brand ambassador Joe Canning. Welcome to the first episode of the Connolly Motor Group podcast. I'm joined today by Audi Galway brand ambassador Joe Canning. Joe, you're very welcome to the very first episode of the podcast. Thanks so much for coming on.
Cheers, thanks for having me, Dennis.
No worries at all. So Joe, as I said there, you're an Audi Galway brand ambassador. You're currently driving the Audi A5. How are you finding that as No worries at all. So Joe, as I said there, you're an Audi Galway brand ambassador. You're currently driving the Audi A5. How are you finding that as a car to drive?
Yeah, it's lovely. It's the new model, and it's a striking kind of a car to see when you first see it. I've been driving a couple of them now over the last number of years. I've been very lucky, and they're just very comfortable. They're very stylish. I remember one day when I first got it, I pulled up at traffic lights and this guy told me to wind down the window, and he was asking me how much it was. He was going to get one. So that just shows straight away when people see them, they want them as well. So been very lucky to drive one of them for the last while. Yeah,
that's brilliant. And he didn't recognise you as being Joe Canning, the GA star at all. He was more interested in your car, was it?
Yeah, no, it was just a car. I think he didn't even see the Connolly's on the side of it or anything. It was just a car, thank God.
That's gas. And I suppose, Joe, as well, like, what would be some of like your favourite features of the car?
Yeah, I suppose it's just the overall performance of it, the handling of it, the look of it. It's so comfortable to drive. I kind of like the beam assist is actually very handy, especially in the late nights and stuff like that. You don't have to be turning the dims on or anything like that. It does it automatically when you meet a car with their lights, or you come into a lighted town or village. So it's that's very handy. Obviously, the heated seats and stuff like that as well is handy these times. But no, just the overall comfort of it. I do a lot of driving with work and stuff like that, and with training. So I spend a lot of my time actually in the car. So the comfort for me is huge, and I think that's the most important thing for me.
Absolutely. And Joe, one of the questions that I was sent in was, what type of music do you listen to in the car? And I'd be interested to know that now myself.
Yeah, it's what do I listen to? It's everything and anything. Sometimes I'd have the radio on. Sometimes I make a lot of calls actually when I'm in the car. But if I'm on Spotify, I suppose Dermot Kennedy would be highly up there. Coldplay, David Gray, Lyra is a bit new now the last couple of months as well. Anything really that the radio a lot of the time, but anything on Spotify. Yeah, Dermot Kennedy is probably my most played in the car, right? Yeah.
He's always a good call now, in fairness. And random story for you, Joe, but I was at the Big Top a couple of years ago doing an interview with Danny from the Coronas, and I believe you came back there as well at one stage. You're a big fan of the Coronas as well, I take it?
Yeah. I know Danny for the last few years, so we played a bit of golf together and stuff like that. So I went to their concert there in Galway that time. Yeah, he was after coming actually from a junior football game in Dublin that afternoon, and he was after getting a belt into the back. He was lucky enough to make that concert. Actually, he was after popping 2 Diphene into himself to kind of get him through the concert, I think, for pain relief. So yeah, he's a good lad, and they're doing real, in fairness. So I go to as many concerts as I can as well. I suppose the Olympia is my favourite place to go to. You get a lot better concert experience, I suppose, than anywhere else. So I go to a lot of them around Christmas and stuff like that. The boys will be playing there.
Brilliant. Yeah, they're fantastic, in fairness. And I suppose we'll switch gears a bit to allow the pun, I guess, onto a bit of GA, because there was a load of questions sent in about the GA. But I suppose reflecting on the season you've just had, Joe, obviously a very different one to the one you're used to. What was the main challenge for you? Was it trying to keep training during the lockdowns, and how challenging was that?
Yeah, that was very difficult, to be honest, because you're so used to collective training, and be it gym or on the field, and even having the crack, I suppose, around training, like before or after in dressing rooms and even out in the field. That was all kind of gone last year, because we weren't, we just arrived to train and we trained and then we left straight away again. So there was no real hanging around or anything. So I think the biggest thing was a bit of crack, actually. That when you're training and stuff like that, it's all serious. But with the lads, when you're not training, that's kind of stuff that you miss. But it was just difficult that kind of a way. And then obviously, you could only train so much. You're only allowed a couple of times a week, and so stuff like that, like even tactics wise and stuff, you were doing kind of Zoom meetings and trying your best to do it that way. But it's obviously not the same. So it's difficult enough. It's difficult for training, and but I think we coped well. We coped as well as we could. We I know we didn't win anything, I suppose, last year, but we still got far enough. So all things considered, it wasn't a bad year really, behind it all.
Absolutely. And I think from a supporter's point of view as well, there's probably a lot of what's the word for it? Like understanding, given the circumstances, that I guess everyone was in the same boat, but at the same time, not optimal circumstances for anyone involved, really.
Yeah, exactly. And most people understood the sacrifices, I suppose, we had to make, and we were as careful as anybody, because we didn't want to miss any trainings or any matches or anything like that either, or put anybody's, I suppose, health in jeopardy. So and that's a lot got to do with our medical staff and within the setup, and guys looking, the management team and the players. We all rode in together, and we all done a good job, I think, last year in relation to the COVID and that sort of stuff.
Absolutely. And Joe, you seem to be around forever at this stage. I think you're after you're what's the word for it? Ageless in terms of your performance on and off the pitch. I suppose in terms of your career so far, who would you say is the toughest person you've played against, or your toughest opponent to date? You're probably getting asked that the whole time, are you?
Yeah, I'm around a bit, all right. I suppose, like, down through the years, you probably marked a good few guys, but the one that always kind of sticks out in my mind would have been JJ Delaney from Kilkenny. I always found him very tough to get away from. He was a great player, obviously, and one of Kilkenny's best ever, and one of hurling's best ever defenders. So I always found him very tough. But I suppose in like our own kind of setup, if you're training, you're marking Dahi or any of the boys, it's always tough to get away from them as well. So I'd say if I was in another county and you asked me that, I'd probably say Dahi Burke. But seeing as I play with him, I'm lucky enough that way. So JJ Delaney probably be the toughest I would have came across outside of Galway.
And I suppose as well, Joe, you've played in the game when social media probably wasn't a big part of the game, and where you'd probably just hear the fans' voices at the end of the match as opposed to them messaging you on and off the pitch afterwards. What type of a difference have you seen over the last few years with the rise of social media and the impact it's having on players on and off the pitch?
Oh, to be back in those times.
It was simpler,
a lot easier, let me tell you. Yeah, it was a lot simpler. But that's just life. Like people say, why are you on it if it affects you or whatever like that, but everybody's on it. You're not just on it for GAA circumstances or anything like that. You're on it because it's, I suppose, obviously social thing now, and people seem to communicate more that way, unfortunately, than any other way. So it's funny. when you do well, obviously everybody it's good to look at social media, but when you do bad, it's not the best place to look at straight away. But everybody seems to have an opinion, and it's like I saw a thing there the other day, Ricky Gervais on Twitter, actually I came across it. He was saying, like, you don't have to have an opinion on everything. It's like going into a town park and you see guitar lessons. You don't ring up the person saying, I don't really want guitar lessons. It's none of my business. So sometimes you have to keep your own opinions to yourself when it doesn't really relate to you. But unfortunately, the way Twitter especially is gone, it's a kind of a free for all, and everybody thinks they know you. But yeah, I'm at the age now where I've seen it all before, so I can take it with a pinch of salt. But it's a lot more difficult for a young guy coming on the scene that maybe it's their first or second year, and maybe they've made a mistake or two in a game, and then people write about it after that. But who hasn't made a mistake in any walk of life, not just in sport? So when it's your teammates or if it's yourself, you look into it a bit more. But at the same time, if hurling or any sport was easy, everybody be at it. So we're very lucky that we have the skills to actually go out in the field and have the composure and the skill set to represent Galway at the elite level. So not everybody can say that, and 90% of the people that's talking to you on Twitter can't say that. So you kind of have to think about them things too.
Absolutely. I think there's a thick skin required a lot of the time on social media. Yeah, it might be no harm if Twitter got a bit tighter with some of the restrictions that they have, in fairness.
Yeah. No, it's fine. As I said, I kind of know how to deal with it now, but other guys mightn't, and it takes time. But it is what it is. That's the world we live in at the moment, I'm afraid. So you just get on with it and deal with it.
Yeah, and touching on that, actually, you're on about younger guys there coming up. A question that was sent in as well to us, Joe, was as a young guy, I think they were 13. I think they were even from your neck of the woods, towards Portumna direction. They were wondering how often should they be training at the moment? From what your advice to them, I suppose, would be more than how often they should be training. But what would be your advice if they want to play at the highest level there, as you described?
I suppose it's a thing that, like, I've my own nephews, I suppose, and nieces that are probably, I hope it's not one of them, they're about 13 as well. So advice, I suppose, it's just practice. It's simple little things. Like, you'd often see kids now and coaches and people training to be athletes, and you'd see it at senior level as well. Hurling is a very, very skillful game. So if you don't train to be a hurler and have your skills at the highest optimum level for you, then it doesn't matter how fit you are. It doesn't matter how much weight you can lift in the gym. If your skills aren't to the highest level possible for you as an individual, then you won't get to play at the highest level, so you can run all day, but I've seen it before with guys, they get up 12, 14 kilometers in a game in their GPS, but they might have only hit 4 balls, where another guy might run 8 kilometers and hit 20 balls. So who would you want to, so for me, it's all about the skills of the game. Get your basics right. You're striking your first touch, you're catching off both sides, small things like that. I used to always, when I was younger, half an hour, like in the summertime especially, when the evenings get longer, and I suppose kids have a little bit more time now because it's COVID and stuff, and I know they're being homeschooled and stuff like that, but they might be able to get out during the day a little bit easier. So practice as much as you can at home. If you have friends or your brothers or your sisters, get them out and play with them, and your parents and stuff like that, and listen to coaches. I think kids nowadays probably don't listen as much as they should. Some kids might think they know it all from looking at videos or looking at matches and thinking, oh, I can do that. But instead of taking it slowly and gently progressing. And the last thing is not being afraid to fail. I think there's a massive emphasis now on not letting kids fail or not letting them feel, I suppose, by not winning. You know, everything has to be about inclusivity, about winning, about feeling good. There's no harm at all in feeling bad about things when they don't go right, because that's life. You encounter that in work, you encounter that, and if you don't do well in your exams in school, that's part of life. You're not going to be 100% every time. So for kids, it's not being afraid to fail at. If you lose a match, you learn from it. Like, I learn more from losing games than I do from actually winning, because when you win, you paper over all the cracks and you think you have it all done, whereas if you lose, you know you have to improve to win the next day. So for me, kids need to accept failure and try and put a positive spin and learn from it and see, what can I do better the next day, what can I do better at training to get me an extra % or two to win the next day. So for me, that's a societal thing as well. Everybody has a positive kind of frame of mind, and that's good as well, but it can't be positive 100% of the time. You have to realize that things aren't easy, and you can't feel sorry for yourself. So that'd be my advice anyway to any kid.
Well, geez, that's some great advice. I'd say it'd be more for the adults as well, to be honest with you, as much as it is for kids. And I suppose, Joe, you touched on it there, but I suppose with your career, what have been some of the highlights for you so far? And what are you, I suppose, beyond that, what are you hoping to achieve going forward in the game?
Yeah, highlights, I suppose, I've been very lucky. That there's been a lot of highlights, I suppose, as in success. There's obviously been a lot of unsuccessful times, more than success, actually. I've lost more than I've won, obviously. So, but for me, I think, winning the All-Ireland in 17 with Galway was one of my childhood dreams, and that was pretty special. But it's what I won with my club, I suppose, is what is the biggest thing for me. I actually just moved into a new house, and the only thing I have hanging up in my house is, I got it off my nephew for Christmas a couple of years ago, is my 5 county medals and my 4 club All-Irelands in one piece, in timber, hanging on timber, and that's the only bit of sport and memorabilia I actually have in my new house. So that probably answers the question for me when I was thinking about it. My All-Ireland medal from 17 is still at home in a box in the press in my parents' house somewhere. So it's funny when I was thinking about that. That's the one thing, and I'm looking at them. They're up on the wall there now, so that's the only thing. Everything else is at home. So I think all my club success was huge, because it was with my family and my friends that I grew up with. And that's not to say that, like, winning with Galway isn't special. It is, but when you win with your club and you win with your brothers, and you're like people that taught you from when I was 5 or 6 years of age going into Portumna up to whatever age I was, to win with your club, that's a pretty special feeling. It's very unique. So they're the only things I have hanging up. So that kind of answers the question, I think.
Well, geez, that's amazing. You touched on it there. How important was it to have like that network of your family playing alongside you on the pitch? I know Ollie fairly well. He's gas crack, but we'd say, like, how much of a motivation was he to have alongside you as well?
Yeah, it was huge. I was very lucky, I suppose. We had a big family. We had was 6 boys and 1 girl in our family. So, and all the lads were playing. When I started out, I think Seamus was the only one of the lads. He's the eldest. He retired just as I was starting. But I played with the rest of the lads and won county medals and that. He was there in 2003. I made my debut in 2004 as a 15-year-old, actually. So he just retired at the end of that year when we won our first county medals. So, like, Ollie and Ivan have 6 county medals. I'm missing one of them, unfortunately. I was only 14 at the time or whatever it was, so I missed out on that. But just to have them there was special, because when I was growing up, that's who I looked up to. They were the guys that I went to all their matches as much as I could, whenever I could find a small space in the car to go, because it was fairly full now with 6 or 7 lads in it. But they were who I looked up to. They were, like, I remember going to Croke Park when I was 3-4 years of age, going up to see Ollie playing minor with Galway, going to Tullamore to see Davy play under 21 with Galway, then Ivan playing with Galway minors in 99, I think it was. So all that, like, when I was growing up, I had guys that I saw on TV or that I saw out the field in Croke Park at home with me. So they're still the guys that I do look up to, as in ask for advice if I ever need it. I don't really go outside my family for advice, because they're the people that actually hit me straight, tell me what I want, what I don't want to hear. I don't like people telling me what I want to hear, because it doesn't actually challenge me. I think it's very important to surround yourself with people that tell you the truth and don't try and tell you what you want to hear, and then you go away thinking there's nothing wrong or there's nothing to try and improve on or anything like that. So I'm very lucky that way, that my family tell me the truth, and they don't try and butter me up or anything like that. So yeah, I've been very lucky to have them in a sporting context, but then just in a general life context as well, you know.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'd say if you got that many brothers, they'll have no bother telling you if you need to improve on bits and bobs here and there.
That's for sure. Yeah, that's for sure.
And Joe, touching on that, I suppose, away from hurling, have you got any hidden talents that people might know about you?
Yeah, I play. I suppose I play a small bit of the piano that people might know. And it's good too, because there's not too many pianos anywhere you go, so it doesn't really get brought out anywhere. So yeah, play a small bit of that.
You'll have to avoid the Hardyman for the nights out.
yeah. That's the only place I don't go. Yeah.
And I suppose, Joe, as well as that, another question that was sent in was, which of your teammates, takes the longest in the changing room to get ready?
Oh, Jesus, which one of the boys? Probably Aidan Hart. Yeah, he fancies himself a small when he's getting ready. Like, yeah, he dresses up a good bit. And himself or Shane Cooney. Shane Cooney is he likes to do a lot with his hair. I think he's conditioner and shampoo and everything for his hair. He does that the Aussie shampoo, you know, that sort of stuff. So he does be spending a lot of time in the shower trying to get his hair right for nights out. Yeah.
And I suppose, touching on the nights out, I suppose from chatting with Shane Walsh before Christmas, the nights out tend to be few and far between for particularly the county players. And I suppose, given the lockdown at the moment, Joe, like, what type of training regime have you going at the moment, or are you taking a bit of time off to recover?
No, it's all individual stuff, obviously, because we can't. We were supposed to be back actually just there in the last couple of days, actually back, but that's been pushed back another 2 weeks until the end of January, and I think by the looks of things it could be pushed back another couple of weeks as well. So it's all individual stuff. We get our bits and pieces from Lucas or S&C. So it's as much as you can. Like, lads are kind of they kind of stocked up on a good bit of gym gear there during last year for the lockdown themselves at home and stuff like that. So I have a bit here in the house and stuff. So lads are doing their own kind of gym work at home, and then they're going for the runs as much as they can then on the pitches and stuff, or in parks or whatever's open, and just the wall outside then for skills work and stuff. It's pretty basic. It's actually kind of stuff that I probably done when I was a kid. At home, I was out at the gable end of the house just hitting the ball off the wall when I was a kid, and I'm kind of doing that again for the last nearly 12 months at this stage again. So yeah, they're the basic things. It's hard enough because you're so used to being in a team situation, and a team you almost rely on other lads to kind of drive you a little bit more, if you get me. Do you know, if I don't, when you're playing individual sport, I think it's easier training on your own, but when you're playing a team sport, you don't actually realize how hard it is to get motivated to train on your own compared to when you know other people are counting on you and you don't want to let them down, and you have that drive that you might think you're doing a running session and you're going flat out, but you don't realize until you get back in the group that, geez, I'm a bit behind here, or else you're a bit in front, or whatever, you know. So it's tough training on your own, but it's something different. It's just everybody's in the same boat. So yeah, I can't wait to hopefully get back training collectively at some stage in the next few weeks.
Absolutely, I think the whole country needs a bit of a release soon enough. I'd say that hopefully sooner rather than later. And I suppose, Joe, you touched on it there with the training. Another question that was sent in was, how many pairs of boots have you, and which is your favorite pair? I'd be very interested now in this, because there might be an increase in sales for whichever boot is your favorite.
Yeah. How many pairs of boots have I? I actually gave away 5 pairs there during the last kind of lockdown for charity. I gave away 5 of my old pair, well, one of my new pairs, and so I have what have I? 1, 2, 3, 4. Doc actually still has my pair from the Limerick game. When I got knocked out, I was in the hospital with my boots on, and they had to take it off me, and the doc came in and brought like all my gear that I had on me. So I haven't seen him since, obviously, that game. So he has one pair anyway. So I think I have 5 or 6 pairs. I probably have a few old pairs at home, probably 10 pairs altogether. The ones I'm wearing at the moment are the Adidas Predator Mania remix. So they're actually very hard to get. They cost quite a bit, so they're all sold out, I think, in most places, but they're the ones I'm wearing at the moment. So yeah.
And how important is your footwear to you in a match? Is it just take ones that are comfy, or can you see a performance difference between each pair?
It depends on the pitch as well. A lot of it, you know. I'd rather wear kind of, let's say, moldies, like firm ground boots, as much as I can. I kind of went in between them and 6 stud World Cups. During Championship this year, Croke Park was it was funny at the time of the year, kind of November, December, when our games were late, and even there was a kind of a dew. Do you know that kind of like foggy dew, and it kind of makes the grass kind of wet if you ever go out on your lawn or wake up in the mornings and so it makes it a little bit more slippy. So I'd normally, during the summertime, I would have worn moldies on Croke Park, but now during the winter it was 6 stud and then moldy, so it was kind of in between a little bit. But yeah, it depends on which kind of pitch. Normally this time of the year I try and wear 6 stud. If you were playing in Pearse Stadium or something like that, it'd be fairly soft. So yeah, it depends on the pitch, depends on the time of the year, but I try and stick with the moldies if I can. They're just a little bit more comfortable.
Brilliant. That's some good advice for anyone that's looking to invest in a pair of boots if they can have a birthday or something coming up. Plenty of time to save up now in between. And I suppose as well, Joe, another question that was sent in there, and one I'd be interested to know as well is, what's your favourite match to ever play in?
It's funny. It's weird actually. Somebody asked me this a few weeks ago, and I remember, like, it for me, it was more about the atmosphere in the game more so than actually the match itself. I know, like, back in 2018, it was the replay against Clare in the All-Ireland semi-final in Thurles. So we had played them the week before in Croke Park, and we were up, I think, 8 or 9 points in the first half, and they came back and we just about drew it. In the end, it went to extra time, and it was a draw after extra time. I think Johnny Cohen got an equalising point or something. And the following week then, we played Clare in Thurles, and there was a parade before the match, and the place was whatever it takes, 55,000 or 50,000 people, but it was packed. I've never been in Thurles when it was full to the rafters, and we were just in the parade, and whatever it was, I often would have heard growing up, like, Munster Championship matches in Thurles. The Munster Championship final is the biggest occasion for Munster teams in Thurles, marching behind the band. And I just thought that it was weird. I was in the parade and we're walking around, and I just kind of went, this is what it must feel like to play in a Munster final. It was just, there was nearly hair standing in the back of my neck going around the pitch before the match. And it was a weird thing to be thinking, obviously, going around. If we lost the match and I told you that, everybody said, actually, wasn't even thinking about the match, thinking about Munster finals. But no, it was just one that sticks out in my mind, that the atmosphere for that match was massive. Because the crowd is nearly in on top of you. You're down a little bit, the pitch is down, the crowd is in around you in Thurles, and just every score was roared upon. Galway Clare, obviously, the rivalry there, All Ireland semi final, and that was probably one of the best atmospheres I'd say I would have played in, for sure.
Geez, that's an amazing story. It is really. I've been to a few Munster finals there myself. I'm from Cork originally, and like it's like a cauldron up there. In fairness, I can only imagine what it's like from the pitch side.
Yeah. No, that was just one. Yeah.
And I suppose, Joe, one of the more random questions that was sent in was, what's your favourite cheat meal to have? I suppose if you're going on a bit of a binge eating session off the diet a bit.
Off the diet a bit. I actually got a new pizza oven, an Oni pizza oven there for Christmas, and I think I'm going to try it out now on Sunday to see what it's like. I have a few of the Dobros boys sending me down stuff. The pizza kits, it's fairly handy. Pizza fries kind of like, I have a couple of restaurants that probably there's a lot of cheat meals in that as well in Camille. So the crispy chili chicken, I think, in Camille is fairly good. That's a nice one to get, like a Sunday evening or something like that after a match. It's always nice. So yeah, either pizza or something probably from Camille would be handy enough.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the chili chicken myself. A bit too much of a fan. I won't be playing any matches anytime soon, the way I'm going. And I suppose, Joe, just one of the last questions I have, and it's a very perfect question to finish on. Which has been your favourite Audi model to drive, the A4, the A5 or the A6?
It's a tough enough one. Probably the new A6, I'd say. Just the new technology inside, interface, the screens and stuff like that. The comfort of it. It's a bigger car. It's a little bit faster, I suppose, as well. under the 120, obviously, and the 100 and whatever. But yeah, probably the A6. I'm, what am I, 6'2", I suppose, and I'm not a small guy, so it's a bigger car. Sit more comfortably in it. It's a lovely car to drive, but just a shade that like the A5 is class, and the new A4 is deadly as well. But if I was going to buy one of them in the morning, it'd be the A6. Yeah. Yeah.
There's plenty of room in the boot for the Hurleys and the gear bags as well, like
the golf clubs as well. Yeah.
Oh, and
well, the Q7 would be my favourite now, but I don't think I'll get anywhere near that now anytime soon.
I'll have to have a word with Porrick in Audi for you. No worries at all.
Do.
Well, Joe, it's been a pleasure having you on. One of the other questions we did get in was in relation to your love of golf. I suppose I can't have you on without talking a little bit about that picture you have up on your Instagram with Shane Lowry. You're a big golf man, I take it.
Yeah. I play a lot, to be honest. Well, I haven't now in a while, but yeah, I'm a member there in Galway Bay in Renville and Ormore. So I used to live in Ormore, and it was very handy for me there. I used to. It was a thing for me that, like, if you had a game on I'm lucky I'm my own boss, and with the couple of restaurants and the Hurleys and stuff like that. So. You could play in the mornings and stuff. So we went down to Renville there, down to Galway Bay a good bit during the summer and stuff. More recovery more than anything, you'd walk 10k or whatever and hit a few golf balls. But it's more for me the company that I play with more so than actually the golf itself. So no, I enjoy it. It was funny. I'm just looking at the Abu Dhabi Championship. Is on this weekend, and I actually flew out to it last year. It's a funny story, actually. Shane was playing, he was defending champion, and I was landing the Friday evening, so it was on obviously Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and I just landed in Abu Dhabi and Friday evening, and he bogeyed the last two to miss this cut by a shot. I didn't see him play golf a Saturday or Sunday. So I just texted him there a while ago. I said I won't be meeting you Saturday morning for breakfast this year. So I won't be travelling to Abu Dhabi to watch the golf this year. I'll have to stay at home here and watch it on the TV. So yeah, it was a good one. Travelled to Abu Dhabi and he missed the cut by a shot.
God. You're the opposite of a good luck charm. You're the bad luck charm for it.
Yeah. So.
And would you ever consider taking up golf a bit more professionally when you're when you're hanging up the boots?
No, I wouldn't be next to near good enough for that. But I definitely will play a lot more when I do hang up the boots. That'll probably be my full-time job then at that stage. But no, I enjoy it. And I love the competitive side of it. It goes back to sport. Any sport I play, I'm very competitive at it, and I like to try and do as best I can. So no, I enjoy it, and hopefully I leave it now for another year or so, and we'll see then.
Absolutely. Well, Joe, it's been a pleasure chatting with you. Thanks so much for coming on. I really enjoyed chatting with you and picking your brain on loads of different topics. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me.